Central Mexico is a high, flat tableland from which towering volcanoes rear their snow-capped heads. A hard, stony land where man must work if he is to live, for Mother Nature gives food here only in return for hard work in her fields. Here, too, man of old piled up great monuments of stone, shaped in the image of the fiery pyramids that ringed him in and made him seem so small. Big monuments piled up by little men, monuments to gods and priests and rulers long forgotten. The temples of central Mexico were built either by the Aztecs or by the earlier people conquered by them. For the Aztecs, too, were invaders who fastened themselves upon the land and its people, taking over its resources and its culture. Thousands of captives were sacrificed to the Aztec gods. Their living hearts were torn from their breasts by the pagan priests. Yet, this was a highly cultured people with knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, biology, and other sciences that equaled or surpassed the level of early Europe. Much of their scientific knowledge has been lost or destroyed, but this calendar stone, for instance, is recognized as a key to the exact date of every recorded event in early Mexican history. Prominent among the Aztec gods was Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Like his Mayan counterpart called Kukulkan, he was half bird and half snake. The Aztecs, too, had a legend that this plumed serpent god would come back to Earth someday in the form of a man that would set them free from all oppression. In 1519, this prophecy seemed to be fulfilled when a few hundred Spaniards with white skins and bristling beards invaded the land. Their arms and armor were made of hard metal, such as the Indians had never before seen. It was now the Indians' turn to be oppressed. The other Indian tribes that the Aztecs had long oppressed became the tools and temporary allies of the new order. This monument is not raised in honor of the invaders. In fact, in all Mexico, it is said that there's not a single statue to Cortez. This is an Aztec memorial put up by modern Mexico, prouder than ever of its ancient past. Our knowledge of those early times is based in part on the study and interpretation of the dances and dramas of the Indians of today, and in part also on early Spanish writings. Here we see a flower dance that symbolizes the story of the submission of the Aztecs to Cortez. The Indian dips his bow of flowers in submission before huge masks that represent the invaders who came with sword and cross to bring a new king and a new god. Here is another Cortez mask, rather more complimentary than usual, for most of the Indian masks representing the Spanish invaders are no more friendly than might be expected. Cortez looks to his bodyguard to clear the way for him by swinging a mighty sword. Now, like a jumping jack, Cortez dances in front of the carved figure of his patron saint on horseback. Finally, victor and vanquished, soldier and captive and saint, horse and all, make their way into the church. To replace the old hook-nosed pagan deities, the Spaniards offered a new god. The pagan idols gave way before the Christian cross. No more human sacrifices to appease bloodthirsty idols. What a welcome message that must have been to the long-suffering natives. When the Indians accepted the new god of the Spaniards, they made him their own in a very literal sort of a way. Every year, large numbers of Indian penitents travel the road to the cross, many of them with their arms stretched over a length of thorny cactus, a prisoner's rope around their bodies. Slowly, painfully, they travel barefoot over the stony ground, and as they plod their hard way, they reenact as best they can all the episodes of the journey of the man of sorrows on his way to Golgotha. At their side, long lines of pilgrims travel the same stony road, many of them on their knees, all the way. Only at the end of the journey, solace beckons them at the feet of the Virgin Mother. The Spaniards built the new religion solidly upon the foundations of the old in more ways than one. Churches rose on the sites of former pagan temples, and the very stones of the old were often built into the new. The church at Colula, for instance, is raised upon a great mound of earth that actually covers a pagan temple. Age-old customs and dances form a colorful part of many of the present-day church festivals. Some of the dancing figures seem to step right out of the pagan past. Just so danced the medicine men of old through the ages before Christianity. Once again, the clown wears the skull mask of death. For these natives, too, look upon the grim reaper as very much of a joke, just as did the ancients. The dancers are members of local religious groups. Many have come a long way for this day, on which they fulfill their vows to do public homage to their patron Madonna. These swaying feather headdresses might well have been worn in the shadow of Aztec and Toltec temple walls. But here, too, dances modern Mexico, and with the same easy grace and the same exaltation. Overhead are flags such as probably greeted Cortez when he was welcomed as a friend into Montezuma's capital. The church is decorated with millions of blossoms, chiefly marigolds, the old Aztec emblem of death and immortality. The church is crowded beyond its doors as eager worshippers jostle one another for entrance. They are carrying holy images from their own villages to be blessed by the Sacred Virgin. The streets, too, are always crowded, and while waiting for the next procession to come by, the candle sellers and the food and drink markets offer their wares. Another group carries a whirling standards strangely like those seen in festival parades in far-off China. Is this another sign of kinship with the ancient peoples of Asia? And here comes an effigy of Judas Iscariot, the man who betrayed Christ. He's due to be burned with lots of noisy fireworks. The influence of the Spanish invaders upon the Indian's life can be seen in such dances as the one called Moor and Christian. It's seen in all parts of Mexico. One group represents the Spaniards, the other, their enemies, the Moors. And the battle of the dancers always ends the same way, with the surrender and conversion of the Moorish king. Why these Indians should enjoy this particular pageant, which seemingly has no relation whatever to their own life, is perhaps explained by the resemblance to the struggle between Cortez and Montezuma, which resulted in their enslavement. Wherever you may go and whatever may be the occasion, music and dancing of some sort are a natural part of the Mexican scene. Many of the chief fiestas take place at planting, harvest, or some other important seasonal high spot, just as they did in the old pagan times. The churches tower above the fields, just as did the pyramids of old. And here the farmers come to pray for their seed to germinate, for the rains to fall, and for bountiful harvests to feed them. And after the harvest is gathered, as on this maguey hacienda, and the pulque is in the vats ready to begin its fermentation, there's another type of primitive religious prayer and thanksgiving. Not in great churches this time, but on every hacienda before their own small altars, the simple farmers conduct their devotions. That evening, there's a local fiesta, with fireworks in the form of El Torito, the fiery bull. Our young friend, the farm worker, now livens up in his hour of glory, for he is the keeper of one of the bulls. His will be the honor of carrying it in the games as the rockets fizz and the candles pop. He hopes it will all go off on schedule, for there is no greater disgrace than to keep a fiery bull that won't fire. Will it fire? This is the big moment. Yes, this one fires, and the fiesta is a complete success, at least for the keeper of the bull and for those who chase him.